Hey, friends, this is Brian Grenadier from the Origins podcast, and I'm here with my very good friend, Nik Bijlani, who's also the founder of the Noah Pangea Project. And his story is unique because he's somebody who had a very traditional upbringing and background and went to college and all that good stuff. And then after being in the world the way like the normal person does for a long time, he decided to take a sharp left turn and go down a whole nother path. And I think his story is fascinating. And I really would like to introduce you to him. And this is my friend, Nik.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. I'm excited to be on the show here
My
and
pleasure.
share anything from my journey or from my life experiences that can be of any benefit to anybody listening. Like you said, I lived many lives, we could say, in the ways of contemporary lifestyles and contemporary lifestyle choices to lots of the offbeat lifestyle choices. And whether that be lifestyle choices that include, ways of eating, ways of being, ways of operating in the world in all these different contexts. I've done, not at all, but I've done a lot of it. So I'm happy to be here and happy to share anything that can be of benefit to anyone.
Awesome. So you went to, was it U of M or Michigan State?
U of M. I went to U
U
of
of
M.
M.
Yeah.
And you got a 4-year degree in what?
I got a 4-year degree in kinesiology. So that's actually a study of kinetic movement. It's an interesting study. It's typically it's a pre-med degree that a lot of people go into. I went into it as pre-med, pre-physical therapy, and also just because it's based a little bit more on holistic wellness. So the concept of kinesiology is it's a little bit different. I used to be a big, and I'm sure we will get into these discussions in the future, if not later today. But I used to be a big proponent on a holistic medicine and well-being. I've stepped away from that a little bit just due to some more recent learnings and some more recent realizations and understanding our humanity and our balance in a little bit of different degree. However, previously to the study of kinesiology was kind of, we could say, driven by underground introspection into self-wellness, we could say. So it was kind of the study of how to optimize our humanity is what I used to call it. How to optimize the being that we are.
Got it. And then,
Kinesiology is kind of up that degree rather than up a slightly more traditional pre-medical or medical constitute.
got it. And then you had that degree, you graduated, and you worked as a nutritionalist, correct?
Yeah, so I worked after I graduated. I actually opened up a weight management clinic, and that was it's based on wellness, but the basis of it was weight management. It was primarily helping endocrinology-based patients or diabetic patients who were having trouble with any type of weight issues, since weight issues seem to be chronically linked in a sense to individuals who obviously tend to have type 2 diabetes, but have diabetes in general. Nutrition is such a big part for a lot of them and kind of runs their life. So what I was able to do is I was able to implement exercise programs and nutritional programs with them to begin their journey per se on lifestyle improvement, but also as a career pathway, that was my initial, we could say, step into the what someone may want to call the real world or the the career focused, we could say, archetype. So that was my first kind of step into career focus, we could say.
Got it. So then you did that for how many years roughly?
So I did that for about 3 years. I did that for 3 years at a very, very successful practice. It took off. It did really, really well. I really enjoyed helping people more than just the fact of weight loss or, changing their body physiologically, but helping them come to the awareness of kind of being happy with themselves in some sort of way and finding some sort of regulatory mechanism of self-acceptance that they came to through the journey. Yet at that point in my life, I was still understanding my own bases, we could say, of what was driving me to do the work that I did. So
Got it.
interesting on both ends, but definitely was able to see the benefit that it was providing, and others enjoyed it.
Got it. And then you took a hard left turn or hard right turn or a hard turn, whatever you want to call it. And what happened? What was the sort of the beginning steps on this
Yeah.
path towards wanting to understand and learn more about yourself and your purpose and your reason for being here?
Definitely, definitely. So, definitely a big turn mindset wise in the context of how I looked at life and how I perceived humanity and perceived life in general. I've always been very empathic and very sensitive. So, my belief system is we all are as human beings. No one's necessarily an asshole in a sense. We can act like one at moments, but that's a moment. So the context of it is that you know for me a big thing was is that initially I was so successful financially that the financial draw and being young and having such financial success was so appealing to me, especially since it kind of hit some fine family dynamics as well of kind of being able to, prove myself not only in the world, but, through a successful family lineage and certain business and economic endeavors. So I was able to kind of give that sense of proof of, look, I made it. I've got this huge business. I've got this, empire that I could run and, whatever it may be. However, luckily, going through that period of my life, I was dating a girl at the time, and I've always been very interested since a very very young age in my we could call we from a scientific perspective we call it like a psycho-emotional system. Um, Psychosomatics would be the exact term that would be used. And that's typically a term that's used to discuss how the emotional body interacts with the gross physical body. So it's basically how your physical body is. I mean, it's almost like if you look at the context of kinesiology and how we link, science into it a little bit more, it's almost like saying like how all the subtle hormonal changes that are occurring at intracellular levels in the body are affecting you moment to moment.
Got it.
It was kind of like that study has been a part of me since I was a child. I would just look at it as psychosomatic in the sense of emotional. So, I mean, we can call sensation through the physical body so many different things. Somebody could call, the buzzing or tightness in their chest, buzzing or tightness in their chest. Somebody else would call it anxiety. It just depends on the social group that you're working with. But again, the effect, cause and effect, the basis of it, the expression of it will be very similar, we could say, based on each individual who is, let's say, holding on to or experiencing that sensation or that feeling.
Got it. So you were always interested in, are my feelings creating my reality? Is my reality creating my feelings? How does my physical body fit into
Yeah,
all that?
even a little more simple than that. It was almost just like, how do I feel better?
Ah,
It was actually, it's almost like I haven't been sick my whole life. I wouldn't say I've been sick, but I would say I've been sick, in a way. And the way that I'd say I've been sick is that One, trapped in our own bubbles. We're only, used to our own relative perspective on life. So we really see life based on our own experiences and based on what we've been through. And it's really, really tough. And I'd say it's godly in a way for us to be able to truly place ourselves in another's shoes. Just because of the fact that when we do that, we can realize at a very deep level what and how someone is being impacted, and the fact that they can be very different than you. Like, not everybody is cut. We were all, let's say, sharing the basis of our humanity, but we're all, though we're cut from the same mold, we're all shaped in different ways. We could
Got
put
it.
it that way. So
Okay.
from that perspective of it, it led me to the point of understanding that there is something off with me in some way. And by something off, it wasn't necessarily something off with me in the sense of something that would be considered weird or different depending on the opinion, but
Mhm.
something off basically meaning like something inside that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So there's always, we could say, the inner seeker, seeking. There's like some people call it state of consciousness, some people call it state of awareness, some people will call it, euphoria, some people call it happy, especially in our modern times, we see the word happy,
Yeah.
right? People are seeking happiness, we could say. So in that realm of it, I could say that I've always been seeking the word that we would want to usually, I mean, we term it. Happy is a very simple yet very, complex word. But I think that that'd be the best word to use is, I've been seeking the state of just being happy, just in general, since being a very little child. So that's been something that's been the driving perspective behind, all the choices we could say I've made in my life, but that extrapolates a little bit more as we go into it.
Got it. So you were seeking happiness. You were aware that there is familial background and expectations. You're aware that there is societal expectations. You're aware that there is energy and chemicals and hormones and all kinds of things inside the body, and all these coming together to try to create happiness, but but you weren't finding it. So what'd you do?
Yes, yes, that's exactly it. So it's like I did initially what I thought I was supposed to do, which is I ran the route of saying, I'm gonna open a business, I'm gonna be a successful American in a sense. So growing up and in a culture where the regard at the time of my upbringing was success was defined as you go to college, you get a degree, and you get a job with that degree. And in my family, it went a little bit further to the point of you get a job where you have a sense of control. So that was kind of the lineage upbringing, the upbringing that I was kind of supported by through my life is a word I would use. So I
Yeah.
was really supported by that upbringing of being successful in that way, and I was able to achieve that level of success through the weight management clinic in the sense of I mean, playfully, I'll share the aspects of life that were present, but playfully at the time, like I was with a girl that I was thinking like, oh, like, okay, I might settle down with her. I'm making over six figures a year right now, so I'm, financially doing really well, especially for my age bracket. I've got this whole business team behind me that's willing to back me if I was looking to do a big expansion project because of the success of the clinic. So I had that kind of going. So I kind of checked all the Superficially, I was very, I don't want to say the even the word superficially, but I was very into bodybuilding at that time. So I had modeling perspectives and things like that. So I had, if we look at the average American checklist, besides the origin of fame, we could say, in the sense of the grandiosity of fame. I was living the American dream.
Got it.
I was famous enough to the point where, you know, everybody in the area knew me, at least, from the business itself and from these other perspectives. So it kind of checked off all the boxes of, winning the the game in a way. Yeah, like you said, the wrench was still kind of inside where it still felt like, but I'm still not happy.
Right.
So,
Something was still missing.
yeah.
So then you stepped away from all of it.
Yeah, so I'll shorten the intermediate section of it um, to help with just some of the simplicity of it, which I'm happy to go into in detail in the future. But in between the process of having the successful clinic and then completely stepping away from it, I went through a life transformative process where I started yoga, I started meditating, I started reading about things that were different than what I traditionally would look at, we could say, even. And I started noticing. So I started noticing different cultures, different ways of being. I started noticing that people um, didn't all share or see life in the same perspective that I was seeing it and sharing it at that moment. And that really opened my eyes because all of a sudden I realized I could be anything
Hmm.
because the shame of my sense of humanity that I had at the time suddenly got erased just with the awareness of, there's so many people out there and so many different cultures and so many different ways of being that we can be and express in so many different ways. It's just traditionally, especially in modern America and to some degree, Western Europe and in Asia, we see the stereotypical upbringing of you know getting some sort of a degree and getting a job
Yeah.
and making money from that job being the ideal of happiness rather than actually the inner workings of it.
Yeah. It's sort of the male archetype of, these are the
Yeah.
roles. This is your menu of options, for the male in our society, and choose from the menu. And at the end, you're supposed to be happy then.
Yeah, that's actually a great way of putting it. I really
It's a
like
good,
how
it's
you
a good
use
sales tool, right?
the word. Yeah, I love how you use the word menu. It's exactly that. It's that, the menu is kind of given to you to an extent, and you and we'll play with it because I really like this example. The menu is given to you an extent, and you're at a fancy restaurant where you might feel a little bit nervous asking the chef to shift some of the menu choices. So
Hmm.
typically, what you do is you end up conforming to the point of saying, you know what, I'll go with that one. It's
Hmm.
probably really good.
Right.
And it's not bad. It's never bad. It's just it's not good enough.
Right. And for you, it was so not good enough, or at least your desire to be more evolved and find that happiness was enough to make you go, all right, I'm going to make a shift now.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah,
made that shift. You went through some transformative stuff, and we can save that for another. That's a 3 hour talk just on
yeah,
itself.
yeah, totally, absolutely, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And it's now been, how long have you now been on this sort of journey, this new path?
It's so interesting, Brian, and I know that you and I share a background with it too, just because I've known you for a couple of years now, for some time now actually. But I would say so. I started seeking the concept of happiness, I would say 7 to 8 years ago, while I continued with the work that I did. It led to transformation in the work that I did, which is, what we could discuss is how I, did so many different things in the process of seeking happiness that it just bled into the practice itself.
Mhm.
Because um, once it's almost like once one becomes aware of how to help generate or create a sense of symbiosity or some of balance or of peace, of love, of whatever word we want to use in the world. Once someone touches that place, the nature of our being is we enjoy sharing it
Got it.
because
So
it
yeah,
just kind of happens. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I sort of see you as like a modern day sadhu,
Mhm.
um, and only in the sense of you put yourself through some extreme stuff, or what our society would call extreme,
Definitely,
to
yeah.
get to a point where you've shed, I don't know, the weight of that societal requirement. You toss the menu aside essentially,
Yeah.
and now you're here. So what is it you feel you're ready to share through your experience? What do you want people to know? Or what could they come to you with? What problems could they come to you with? And you could say, all right, well, look, I have some ideas for you based upon what I know. So, and I'm basing this on, it's kind of like the Buddhist story in a way, where he left the palace, he was suffering, he went to the forest to do these extreme practices. He realized, you know what, it doesn't have to be extreme all the time. There's a middle way here, and I'm going to sit under this tree until I figure it out. He figures it out, and he starts to share. And his first lesson is life is suffering, but there's a path that will. There's causes to suffering, and there's a path that'll lead you out of suffering.
Right.
And I feel like you've done all those steps, and now you're at, okay, I can teach people how to do this, or at least I can teach you how to be happier because
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
now I've now found happiness because
Definitely.
I understood suffering, something like that.
Definitely. 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 So you phrase it really well. I mean, that's a huge compliment to give somebody too. So I really appreciate the compliment of you. Like I said, I know you have a lot more detail on my life than we've shared, as we in this segment that we're talking through.
Yeah.
But just knowing me, knowing my background, I really appreciate you sharing that. And I'll make the comments on it that's, spot on in the sense of living in the extreme of things, and I can dive into that so deeply because we get so caught up in trying to find moderation, and sometimes we actually realize that it's the extremes that let us have the experience to a certain level that we can actually then be done with the experience rather than it be attack that's kind of like, it's like the guy who is he's smoking cigarettes and he's smoking two a day and he's cutting down and doing well. The reality is he might actually do better, and I know it sounds really weird, but I mean he might actually do better if he just like quote unquote F it in a sense, and I'm just gonna go ahead and smoke um 10 packs a day, and he goes ahead and he just starts, chain smoking. He may realize within a day or two very quickly that that feeling or craving has burnt out. It's not something he's not looking for the cigarette. All of a sudden, the cigarette, it's like I actually don't even feel like doing it.
Yeah. So you
So
did that.
yeah, yeah. So it's a
Essentially, not with
so
cigarettes, but
yeah,
essentially.
essentially, yes. Essentially, that's the path that I ended up taking was after the path of restriction. We could say again, I feel like this is relatively common, mirroring the Buddha story and a lot of spiritual seekers' stories, in the sense of stereotypically, I learned what I learned very quickly, and a lot of our ancient teachings are based on minimalism and based on certain practices, we could say.
Hmm.
So what I did is I immediately went to, okay, I'm going to go as minimal as I can go and do all the certain practices that I'm learning and just integrate them in the way that I integrate them. And I did that for years. And it worked really well because, well, I can't really share the because that's another long story because it's part of the path, you could say.
Right. But it
You
worked
know?
well, and you're now at the other end of all of that,
Yes, yeah, yeah,
and that's the bottom line is, and now you're here now.
yeah.
So they say that people who have certain attainments, they can go and live in a monastery and just sort of be happy and sit on a park bench like Eckhart Tolle for 3 years and just kind of be there. But at
Right,
some
right.
point, they want to teach it and share what they've learned and hope that other people can glean some kernels of wisdom from it to enhance their lives.
So,
And
so
that
you got
seems,
it. Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's where you are.
So you got it. You got it exactly. So it's kind of like I've teetered with the extremes of it, and I personally feel like I have found a sense of balance within myself, and that's such a big statement to make. So to make a self statement of that, I realize how cocky that may sound, but at the
Yeah,
same
it
time,
sounds like a big ego statement. Like, look at
yeah,
me, everyone. I'm the next, whatever.
yeah,
But
I'm
and
happy.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, and that just gets people killed. So we don't want that.
There's been happy people, yeah, yeah, pretty. So,
Right.
so, so to me, the reality of it is like I won't. I mean, I'll sit there in a direct way of saying it, I'm not gonna lie. So the direct way of saying it is that yes, I found what I've been seeking.
Yeah.
So I've by finding what I have been seeking, I've done that through maintaining and going through such extremes of life to the point that they've come together to form a balance. And this
Got it.
balance that I've found is what I'd call happy. It's a pervasive, I won't go near calling it a sensation 'cause it's much more than a sensation. It's a pervasive, is
Yeah.
almost how I leave it. It's a pervasive
Right.
sense of, we could even call it this, it's a pervasive sense of awareness within oneself. So it's
Got it.
part of oneself, but it's so pervasive that no matter what one is feeling or going through or how life is kind of going, it's kind of like you said, everything's still, it's still happy.
Yeah. So
Happy,
even though you have bad days, you have good days.
absolutely, yeah. Ups and
y-
downs and
Yeah,
rounds and
it's
rounds, and sometimes the car starts and it doesn't. It's it's yeah.
it's like you have a normal life to a degree, but you understand the causes and you understand
Yeah,
that this feeling or that feeling is just energy and it's movement,
yeah.
and
There's
everything is in
something
its like
so much, yeah, even more simplistic than that, I put it. It's just there's something so much bigger, just just a little bit deeper than that.
yeah, like everything's in a perfect state of flow,
Yeah,
even on a bad day.
yeah, exact. It's almost like the reality is that I could use the word bad day playfully with you, but there's an impossibility to it when there's a pervasion of this sense of awareness
Right.
within oneself, which we could call happy. Once happy's here, um, and I don't want to make it sound like happy's elsewhere. Happy's not elsewhere. But once the awareness of happy's here, everything's happy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it brings you back to any type of spirituality where they talk about, the child, the concept of the child, and how, a child may be in ignorance, but watch their emotions and you watch how, they're laughing at almost everything. Even when they're crying, they're almost laughing at whatever it is. And it's because in that mind state, they may not be aware of happy, but they're happy.
Right. It's kind of like a fish being aware of water.
Yeah, yeah, no, you got it. Yeah, it's exactly it. It's that they're not aware of being happy, but they are happy, and you
Yeah.
can tell it vibrates from them in the sense of the vibrancy of their face, the vibrancy of their smile. We're attracted to babies and to puppies and to newborns. in any species, we could even say, in many species, we'll say, in innately as human
Yeah.
beings, because we innately actually sense happy.
Right.
And when we
So
sense happy, we go to happy because, again, there's something inbuilt within us that, there's nobody that has ever acted or moved in the world, per se, that hasn't had the intent of being happy.
right. It's the root motivation. Who was it? There's a Christian saint that wrote about that. So the root motivation of all beings is to be happy and free from pain. And every act we make, from the clothes we wear, the glasses, the haircut, the
No matter
hats, the
what we
scar,
do, yeah, no matter
it's going to
what we
make me
do,
happy,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, whether you come at it from a philosophical perspective or
Right.
just an everyday life perspective, everything we do, whether it's if you take the extra shift at work and you're working an 18-hour double shift at the truck yard, whatever it may be, you're doing it because there's something within you that has come up with a level of complexity that is for a different conversation, but has come up with some level of complexity that has not told you that if I work this extra shift and yeah, I might feel like blah blah blah, but I'll make this much extra money and then I can do this here, and then okay, that will eventually lead me to possibility of happy.
Yeah.
And that's the catch that most people will
Right.
make.
And that's
It's
the thing is that, as humans, we often do things that inherently, from a karmic perspective or cause and effect perspective, make us pretty unhappy. And we do it over and over again, thinking it will lead to happiness when it doesn't, or the way we treat other people. Like, I'm going to yell at you or road rage on you or write negative reviews on socials
right,
because I think it's going to make me happy. When in fact, that seed planted actually blossoms into a fair amount of unhappiness.
right.
But
Or we try,
yeah,
which would be the dichotomy of it, right? So, I mean, it sounds better, right? It sounds better to try to be nice to somebody than not be nice to somebody. But at the same time, even that moment that you're trying, when you are in an inauthentic space, we could say, the moment you stepped into that space of inauthenticity, you could call it an hour discipline because you'd said, I'm using a discipline not to yell at this person right now. I'm
yeah,
breathing deeply. I'm working on this. I'm doing a really good job. And from a psychological perspective, we could simply say, yes, you are. But the reality is that the restraint that you're using is actually unnatural.
right.
So, I mean, and there's a huge runaway tangent you can take with that because that can lead to some weird thoughts and some weird, zombie apocalypse type of thinking. So that might be for an endeavor for another
Yeah,
session.
another podcast.
Yeah,
Um, but what I found interesting is like when I spend time with you, um, you'll look at me and because of what you've sort of been through and how awakened you are energetically, you'll say, "Oh, that feeling in your heart right there," and you'll tell me what I'm feeling, and then you'll say, "It's energy. Can you move that energy? Can you shift that energy?" And I do, and I'm thinking, that was magic. How did you do that? And then then it leads me to my own awarenesses in growth and in self exploration and awakening because you've already been there and you've done that, and then you can see it in me, and when I awaken to it, I can then
that's
wake
a
up
great
to those
that's
things
a
too.
great
It's
way of
really a
putting it.
fascinating thing that you have.
Yeah, that's actually a great way of I really like how you were able to actually put that because I haven't had it framed to me in that way before. But that's a great frame to look at it in is that, yeah, just simply someone being able to point something out for you in the sense of not even the context of empowerment, but in the sense of just saying like, um, at least I'll give it to you from my story very simply. It was just someone was willing to feel me even just a little bit per se, and them hearing And I say that word with the most diligence and respect because someone hearing me, even just a little bit, was the deepest sense of understanding that I had known at that time. And it was the most sacred thing that I have ever felt or was able to understand at that moment, without, let's say, understanding myself, which is the grandiosity. Um, when referred to in that way.
Yeah. Well, what's going through my mind is, you're somebody who is, you are where you are at this moment in time. And how do other people benefit? And there's all kinds of, you know, leaders out there that say, well, if you just follow my 6 point plan, you'll be happier if you just do this program and pay me a whole bunch of money to do it. Buy my books, buy my tapes, make sure you see my podcasts, like me on socials, da 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 da. Then you'll or donate to my place of worship. Then you'll reach whatever levels you are. And it's different with you because it's more like just sit with Nik and see what comes up. And you might be surprised at, because of his intuitiveness, empathy, and then also just wisdom that you gain from all you've experienced. The suggestions that you come up with.
We could even put it, and I know this is a weird way because I'm not dissociating from myself when I say this, yet I know how directly it comes off. But it's almost like the concept is like the sacredity of friendship, right? If you're going through anything in your life, and if you truly have a friend, someone who you know will listen to you, will hear you, will go through it with you in whatever ways they can or whatever ways they will. In, that means so much to us, especially when, our shoes feel like they're in the dirt, you
Yeah.
know? So to be able to have that, to have someone like more than it just being on the, because I totally understand how you're saying it in the context of like the teaching, the learning perspective. Um but that's where, that's where there's a little bit of rigidity in me where I step back and I pause a little bit just because the sacredity of hearing somebody and saying, you know what, like I understand what you're going through, and
And you really do because you've been through it.
exactly, and it's a true understanding. It's not someone looking in your eyes and being like, "Man, that's tough," or "Oh, yep, you got," it's
Yeah.
actually
Good luck
somebody
with all
being
that.
like, I really do understand. And when someone looks in the eyes and they tell you that they truly do understand, I mean, there's something monumental in us just as human beings that open within us because we realize that not only are we accepted for whom we are, but it's okay. It's the
Yeah.
overwhelming feeling of it's okay, is typically what comes in because we're understood.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is when you give advice or share ideas or even just reflect back on what you're experiencing in the presence of others, it's done with a real state from a state of love. It really is. And I've never, in all the times we spent time together, I've never felt judged.
Mhm.
um, if I've come to you with a problem or a question, or I'm stuck in my head because of my conventional way of thinking about life and whatever, it's never been a place of judgment. Like, well, it's more of a, I get where you are. I understand what it's like to be in your shoes, and I can't wear your shoes for you. I can't clean your shoes for you, but I can show you some things that teach you how to clean your own shoes and help you walk better. And
And I can walk with you.
yeah, for sure. And
If
I
I,
and I and that's one of the best
yeah,
experiences too,
yeah,
is
yeah.
that benefit. And I always walk away feeling like I've awakened to something deeper that that I might not have found just on my own in my busy life or my distracted life, because we're all on our phones, running around trying to make money or trying to do something. And the presence, the state of beingness that you bring into an interaction is valuable. Um, and it, I don't know how else to describe it, but I think that that's a huge benefit that people receive when they spend time with you. If they hire you for a session, if they seek your advice, it, um, it's something that has to be felt. I'm trying to explain ice cream and the flavor of it to somebody who may have never had ice cream. It's kind of difficult to do.
I hear you, and I appreciate that too because I can tell, I can feel the respect from it as well, and that's a really big deal. But the way that I'd put it, and again, it's not a downplay towards myself. It's more something that I would enjoy spending time talking to another about at some point in time. Would be again just the concept of friend. It really is like having, if we look at the depth of the definition of the word friend, the depth of it, having a friend to walk around the block with you, or to talk to you on the phone for half an hour, or we can look at it from the business standpoint, meet up with you or to do a Zoom call with you 3 times a week to help you organize your greatest life's dream, whatever it might be, your greatest excitement, your greatest whatever it may be. If you can have someone who truly is your friend, who truly is in that space of friendship per se, I feel like that's the greatest gift that anyone could ever give or receive, is just having someone there who really understands.
Yeah. And then but when they learn about themselves, then they become that friend for others. And that's the beautiful,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
toss a rock into a pond and it
It's like
creates
it's
ripples.
almost like it turns into we become friends.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you toss the rock in the pond, it creates ripples. But when the ripples hit the edge of the pond, they bounce back inward on you.
Mm.
And that's the symbiotic sort of relationship that I feel like I get with you when we spend time together, and then it affects how I teach and how I spend time with others. It's today I was teaching, and I was channeling Nick for some reason, and all this stuff was coming out of my mouth. And after class, people were like, "That was great, thank you so much." I'm like, it wasn't me, but it was me. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. No,
that's
I
that's a
totally
fascinating
understand.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I think the big thing for me is that um you read about it and you hear about it and you talk about it in all these different ways, but it's almost like once you go so deeply into the complexity of a lot of the philosophy that is delved around, philosophy and psychology has delved around happiness, humanity, whether you look at it from the context of physiology, whether you look at the context of psychology, whether you look in the context of, mind, body, spirit, spirituality, all these different aspects of it. The reality is that it's all, and I hate to use this word, and not because I hate to use it, because I have a very deep sense of devotion to this word because I understand this word very deeply, but others don't seem to fully grasp it at all moments. But the word is evocation. And the concept is that we're all evoked on every possible level of, you could call it life. We all have different readings and philosophies and standpoints that we go by. So, what we define on the concepts of even the sense of level can be different for different people. Because again, that they're working on a different, not wrong, but they're working on a different manuscript in a way.
So let's clear that up. Evocation, how do you define? What does that mean?
So evocation is simply the fact that when we feel a pure sense of compassion within us, move through us, or around us, our nature is just going to be to open,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what that may be. And by open, it means be authentic.
So
Can't help.
expression inward to outward is evocation of
Yeah.
emotion, wisdom, life, the
Yeah,
broadcast.
it's almost like, there's certain people in life that most people have, that they are like, I'm always like this around this person. I'm always like this around this person. And the reality is that, yes, while they have, I don't want to take away from their sense of control or power, but the reality is that both those individuals, but using the individual who is making the reference at this moment, they're looking at the consciousness of evocation between them. And that's why the interaction takes place the way it does. So, in the simplicity of it, is that we can use I guess, the shyness within me that comes out is using the terms of, some of the great shamans and the great, healers and energy workers and Reiki masters and, philosophers and contemplators and meditators and, whatever faith or background you're going to look at. These great individuals, whatever they called what they did, or they did what they did, you know, in a way, that was something someone called it. To them, they were just being a friend.
Mhm. So we get caught up in the labels and the words, but
Yeah.
the emotional evocation, the pureness of that,
It's
we all
almost
try to define,
it's the weirdest thing, and I know this is kind of weird even for me to say. Having we could say quote unquote a business and doing this professionally and speaking professionally and everything, but it's like the amount of money that the average human being would pay for a friend is beyond comprehensible. If you understood or knew what a friend is as a human being, and again, we do this anyway. I mean, think about why people will go to the store and buy the clothes they do, why they act they do, why they. I mean, it's typically to make friends or to have friends or to form some sort of a social class or social group that they can feel comfortable in some sort of way. And yeah, we lose ourselves in different paradigms, but the reality is, as weird as it sounds, at the end of the day, we're all trying to be popular.
Mhm.
And by being popular, it's not being popular to get everyone to like us. It's being popular enough so that we can feel safe enough in having a friend.
Mhm. But usually that doesn't work.
Usually it doesn't work. Yep, because we use a mechanism to get to it,
Mhm.
rather than a level of authenticity. And that's where having someone who has, let's say, understood the basis or framework of humanity itself kind of comes in, because then they can be your friend to the journey of becoming a friend.
Got it. And you can help people do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Plus probably about 100 other things. But for the purposes of today, we'll keep to the one topic.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, that for me, I'd say is the greatest skill set I've had and I've always had, but it's the most pronounced it's ever been. Just because it is a plethora, like a friendship is dynamic in many ways, we could put it. And sometimes friends like to talk about um, weird stuff, right? We could put it that way, in the most playful way of saying it. So the thing is, it's that nothing gets left out in a friendship. Friendship is always inclusive. So it's kind of the realm of it is to be able to be a good friend. One has to understand what friendship truly is.
Mhm.
But one understands what friendship truly is, now they can be a good friend.
Mhm.
And being a good friend, I would say, is the epitome of any goal in life that anyone could have. Because, I mean, there's nothing more pleasing than being a good friend for anybody involved.
Right.
And we
You
all
know,
know that, looking at kids and everything when they, buy the secret birthday party and buy the secret birthday present and, hide it for their parent or write the special card in the middle of the night that they write, just for their parent or things like that. It's like, it's coming from a place that is truly friend.
Yeah. Well, when we talked the other day, and I don't even know if friend's the best term in a sense, because when we were walking the other day, we said something about the idea of I'm just a human, full stop, being.
Yeah.
And I think that beingness, because you have identified so clearly with it, understand it, have explored it, and live it, that you teach other people how to get into that state of being. And a natural byproduct of that state is being that friend, or
Right.
being that best happiest version of yourself, because you understand beingness, where you're not chasing the next thing that you have to buy, chasing the next experience. I've got to climb Kilimanjaro, then I'll be happy. Now I've got to get the new car, I got to get the bigger house, or
I
chase
think
the next dollar.
you
I mean,
said spot
you
on.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do all those things, but without that state of beingness, you'll always chase the next thing. I've taken people on experiences, meditation experiences, and retreats and things, and we didn't have to go far. We'd have to go to India
Mhm.
and go to an ashram, or go to Thailand, or swim with the
Right.
dolphins
Yeah.
to get that state they're looking for. Um, but but it was also very some sort of experience that helped them achieve it. And what you're saying is you've already been through the experience. You feel like you've achieved that. And there are ways to be in the presence of others to help them achieve it too, without, having to go through extremes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say that's a 100%. And I could do this self sale right now in the context of saying that what you said is 100% spot on. I've played the extremes. I can talk to you from any level, whether it be, metaphysics and science to, we can go to, the Cambodian natives and we can talk about some of their ritualistic cultures and why and how they did what they did and understand it on, every possible level. And by understanding every possible level means not just intellectually understand it, but you can hear it, at the deeper
Yeah.
sensory levels too. So it's like being able to understand or have, it's again the concept of a friend. It's like having a friend to walk you through makes the experience makes the experience one of joy and pleasure and one of happiness rather than one of struggle in the context of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't actually understand because we hit the struggle and immediately go to the compulse without actually having the friend who's able to hold our hand through it and realizing that this deeper experience is actually much more real than the compulse that is the reactivity to whatever it may be.
Got it. And I think that summary is sort of a good place to end this, because if we keep talking, we'll go for 3 hours
Yeah,
down
definitely.
down some pretty deep rabbit holes. If somebody wants to, sounds have you as their friend, or if they want to take
No,
a
I know.
session with
Yeah, I
you,
know. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because we live in the modern world, we have to use we have to use words to kind of put it.
yeah,
I'm happy to be referred to as friend, but yeah, usually most people or work will call me like a life, like not lifestyle, but will call me a coach or a mentor, or coach and mentor are usually the
the
two
label.
big ones in the sense of where we could say our modern society feels most comfortable saying I'm getting advice from someone who's reputable, who's able to hold their own in a certain way, and at the same time, I'm still feeling safe in who I am, in the regard of kind of what I'm going through. So yeah, usually it's coach or mentor is what it goes by. Mentor
Cool.
being the more predominant one. But yeah, I'm happy to mentor anyone who is
How
looking to make any substantial change in their life, whatever it may be.
how do they find you? How does
So
somebody make an appointment with you?
so how they can find me is they can contact me directly from my phone number, which if you could put up with the podcast summary, that'd be great. And they can also find me at my website called the Pangea Project.me.
Okay. I'm just writing it down so I can put it in the notes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
either one of those two are a great way to reach out and just again to have a friendly conversation and see where that goes. And again, we all are in different spaces of life or seeking something a little bit different, but as long as we are able to come to an awareness that everything's okay, and if it's even just advice on like, so how do you think I make extra money to buy the pink shoes for Friday's dance? That's fine too, because
How did you
we
know I was
can,
looking for pink shoes?
because we can learn through that road as well. So it
Got it.
really depends on the individual, and where I used to actually hold the structure a lot more of programming each individual. Now I'll still help create structure for an individual, but I won't hold it on them.
Got
What
it.
is the biggest difference? So that basically means that I'm very open to working with anybody in any walk of life, in the sense of they don't have to be looking for happy. They can be looking for pink shoes. Pink
Got
shoes are
it.
great too. You
And if
know?
they're looking for happy, you'll help them with that too.
Yeah, if they're looking for happy, we'll find happy. If they're looking for pink shoes, we'll go out and get some pink shoes.
All right. Sounds
But
good.
yeah,
All right, Nick. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you more than you know. And I just wish you all my best and great success.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian. It's great talking.
You too. Bye
Yep.
bye.
Bye.